You know, React is incredible. It makes so many decisions for you, but it leaves one of the biggest ones completely wide open: how you actually structure your project. And it might not seem like a big deal at first, but trust me, getting your folder structure right is the absolute game changer for building an app that can actually grow without falling apart.
We've all been there, right? You open up that SRC folder and it's just a junk drawer. You've got components, hooks, services, utils, everything just tossed in there together. Trying to find anything feels like a total scavenger hunt. Well, this is the exact chaos we're here to fix today.
But here's the thing. Before we can even start organizing our files, we have to get on the same page with React's core philosophy. And it's built on this one beautifully simple idea. Your UI is just a function of its state. That's it. You give the function some data and it spits back a user interface. This single principle, when you really get it, is the foundation for everything.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with that React mental model, then we'll walk through the structure pretty much everyone starts with. We'll see exactly where that breaks down, and then we'll build up to a professional production-ready architecture. By the end, you're going to know not just what to do, but more importantly, why you're doing it. Okay, first things first, we have to learn to think in React. This isn't about files and folders yet. This is about seeing your entire user interface as a collection of independent, reusable building blocks. You know, like Legos. A search bar, a button, a user profile, each one is a component that you can snap together to build something way more complex. So how does React work its magic? Well, it's declarative, which is a fancy way of saying you just tell React what you want the UI to look like for any given state. When that state changes, React doesn't just tear down the whole page. No way. It builds a new virtual blueprint of the page and compares it to the old one. It finds the tiniest possible differences and then, and only then, does it update the real page. It's what makes React so incredibly fast. Okay, with that foundation in place, let's talk about the structure most of us start with. You've seen it in pretty much every tutorial, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense at first. You group your files by what they are. You know this one. A components folder for all your components, a hooks folder for your hooks, pages, assets, and so on. And for a small project or maybe a quick prototype, this is great. It's simple, it's intuitive, and it gets the job done. But here's the catch. As your project grows, this neat little structure starts to crack. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Web Dev Simplified nails it here. That components folder becomes this massive, unruly beast where you can't tell a simple button from a complex piece of the user profile. And that brings us right to the heart of it, the scaling problem. The very thing that makes this structure so appealing at first, its simplicity, is exactly what causes it to fail when things get real. This side-by-side tells the whole story. Small project, it's all good. But in a big project, let's say you need to work on the user profile. You have to jump into the components folder, then the hooks folder, then maybe a services folder for API calls. Everything is scattered. That's what we call low cohesing, and it makes it a real headache to work on any single feature. So what's the answer? We flip the logic on its head. Instead of grouping files by what they are, we're going to group them by what they do. This, my friends, is the feature-based architecture, and it's the industry standard for a reason. I love this table because it shows the evolution, right? Your architecture should grow with your project. You start simple, but as things get bigger, you need more structure. We're aiming for that last row, a modular, feature-based system that's built to last. And this is what that looks like. Now notice we still have a components folder, but now it's only for the really universal UI elements, like a generic button or modal that you use everywhere. The real heart of the app is that new features directory. This is where we organize our code by what it does: authentication, user profiles, the product search, you name it. So let's stop talking theory and actually look at one. Let's zoom in and dissect what a single feature folder looks like. We'll use a super common example: authentication. Look at this. Inside features, authentication, you have everything related to auth. Its own little components folder for the login and sign up forms. Its own hooks folder for the use auth hook. Its own API logic. This is called co-location, keeping files that change together in the same place. And let me tell you, it's a superpower for keeping your code maintainable.
And what about that little index.js file? That's the secret sauce. It acts like the front door for the entire feature. It's the public API. It decides what other parts of the app are allowed to see, and it hides all the messy internal details. This keeps your features truly self-contained and your imports super clean.
So you've done all this work. You've built this beautiful, clean structure.
The payoff here goes way beyond just finding files faster. A good architecture actually unlocks more advanced development patterns. Take state management. Now, your authentication feature can handle its own state. Whether you're using React Context or a Redux Toolkit slice, all that logic lives right there next to the UI that uses it. You can say goodbye to those giant, scary global state files. And what about performance? When your app gets big, you'll need to code split to make that initial page load faster. With this structure, it's a piece of cake. You can just tell your app, hey, don't even bother loading the admin dashboard code until someone who's an admin actually clicks the link. And testing becomes a dream. You can test an entire feature in isolation without worrying about the rest of the app interfering. This makes your tests faster, way more reliable, and just so much easier to write. Okay, let's boil all of this down to the essentials. The difference between how a beginner might set things up and how a pro does it is crystal clear. The common mistake is just dumping everything into a giant components folder. The professional practice is to group by feature, keep your files small and focused, and maintain a sharp separation